All right. Welcome to the Alabama football recruiting show today, part of the Bama Insider YouTube channel. I am Andrew Bone. We are coming to you today. It's Monday. Typically on Mondays on BamaInsider.com, I share my 10 recruiting thoughts. Now, 10 recruiting thoughts, what does that mean? Is this just spur of the moment thing? No, it's pretty much the main things that are going on in recruiting, especially for the Crimson Tide. Whether that's kids who have set up visits, kids who may have committed somewhere, whether it's Alabama or maybe to another school that may affect Alabama's recruiting class. Kids that have scheduled visits. Pretty much anything. New scholarship offers. I do this every single week on BamaInsider.com every single Monday. So this is going to be probably the only time that we do this on YouTube. I do a kind of a recap, a little preview every single Friday. A lot of you join each week on Friday, so thank you very much for doing that. So this week, just for tonight only, we're going to do kind of show you guys what we do on BamaInsider.com as part of this 10 recruiting thoughts that I like to post every single week. It's a lot of inside information. It's stuff that's going on. Like I said, stuff that's going on throughout the week. The very latest on certain kids. Now, some people get mad at us when we don't hit on, this kid or that kid, but it's usually because we hit on this kid or that kid last week, and we're trying to touch on, some bigger news that's going on this week with that kid or that kid. So this week, obviously, we're going to talk a little bit about the LSU game, kind of some recruiting impact that's going on down there. After that big win down in Baton Rouge, we're going to talk about some of the kids that I visited with last week. I visited 2 5-star kids. I actually visited with 3 5-star kids last week. From IMG Academy when they played at Hoover High School the other day. Going to talk a little bit about a couple visitors that's coming into Tuscaloosa this weekend. And then at the end, going to let you guys ask a few questions and knock that out. But like I said, this is going to be just kind of a one-time thing regarding my 10 recruiting thoughts of the week posted on YouTube, because this is premium stuff. This is stuff that I get on BamaInsider.com every single Monday, share my thoughts with our subscribers. A lot of fan interaction. So if you're not a member of BamaInsider.com, strongly encourage you to jump on there, check things out. We're offering a 30-day free trial. Check it out. If you don't like it, you can easily leave, but I think you guys will stick around and hang out for a while and interact. Obviously, it's recruiting season starting to really heat up. Even though Alabama has 21 commitments, still a lot of big names that are out there that Alabama's got a chance to close with. So it's going to be really exciting for the next couple months with that first signing day, early signing period coming up in December, and then obviously everything that's going to be going on in January and February with the rest of the recruiting class. So going to jump into it right now. Talk about the Alabama LSU game. Obviously, big win for the Crimson Tide, 29-0. Down at Tiger Stadium, Death Valley. Night game. I mean, what more can you say? I mean, just an absolute dominating performance by Alabama. I mean, over close to 600 yards in offense, holding LSU to under 200 yards in total offense. I mean, that's just unbelievable. I mean, something that you don't really see too often. And Alabama was able to go down there. There was a lot of big time recruits down there, and I got a chance to speak to a few of them. We know of a lot of kids that were there that I haven't talked to yet, but a lot of top guys that were there watching it in person that I think it's going to have a pretty big impact on these guys. I talked to some of Alabama's top targets, Noah Pola Gates, the 4-star DB from Arizona. Now, he wasn't at the game. He'll be in Tuscaloosa here in a few weeks for the Iron Bowl, but he was just blown away. He said roll tide. He was really excited about the big win, so that he knew Nick Saban was going to have those guys really prepared. Same thing with Marcus Banks, former LSU commitment. Said he kind of expected at least a field goal maybe from LSU. He did tell me that he expected Alabama to win beforehand, but it said he was kind of expecting a field goal. But Nick Saban, that coaching staff, did such a great job and kind of just dominated that that entire performance. Another kid that I talked to, Justin Flo. number 2 overall player in the 2020 class, 5-star linebacker, visited Alabama during the summer. Could possibly end up being the number 1 overall recruit in the 2020 class. He told me last week, he said he didn't think Alabama was going to lose, and I talked to him just last night, and he goes, I told you Alabama wasn't going to lose, and I don't lie. So good call there, Justin. And obviously, we had a lot more reactions from recruits. I think I spoke to close to 20 kids. We have all those at least 20 comments from different recruits about the game on BamaInsider.com. So if you go to BamaInsider.com and you'll see the recruit reaction, click on that. You'll see all the kids that commented about the game, their thoughts. We had a lot of kids post about their predictions a couple days ago before the game, and a lot of I kind of expected Alabama to win, and I knew Alabama was. And anytime somebody asked me what I thought the score was going to be, I kept saying a high number, like 45-21. Thought LSU was going to score. I was kind of surprised how dominating Alabama's defense is. Just because of there's so much hype, there's so much build up. You kind of don't expect to see it. A shutout, a complete shutout, Coach. So I expect a little bit more points to be scored on both teams. Alabama, obviously, just completely dominating. But talking to so many recruits last week, you just continue to hear, just so many blowout predictions. And obviously, Alabama did blow them out. But I was kind of surprised at how many people expected just an absolute blowout in that game, 1-3. So going to be interesting to see what happens kind of the rest of the way for the Crimson Tide. Obviously, everybody looks at that game and says, they can't be beat. And obviously, Coach Saban's going to have to worry about that, because he doesn't want his players thinking that, because, if you think you can't be beat, that's when possibly when you do get beat. So Coach Saban's going to have to deal with that. But what kind of impact is this going to have the rest of the way on the recruiting season? We look at some of the top names who were at that game that Alabama and LSU are going after. Marcus Banks, as I just mentioned, recently decommitted from LSU. He's going to be visiting Alabama again for the Iron Bowl. I think Alabama is very, very high on his list, so he's a name that I think that game could have made a big impact on him. So we'll see how his visit goes to Alabama here in a few weeks. He's already made his official visit to Alabama, but I think Alabama's got a pretty good chance with him. Obviously, everybody wants to know number 1 defensive tackle in the country, Ishmael Sopsher, 5-star defensive lineman out of Amet High School in Louisiana, same high school as Alabama sophomore wide receiver Devontae Smith. What's going to happen with him? And we have a lot of people that believe he's a strong lean to Alabama. There's people in Louisiana that believe he's going to end up at LSU. Now, he has a tremendous relationship with Coach Ed Orgeron. I mean, they've got a very, very close bond, probably the best relationship he has with any coach. Will that end up mattering in the end? Not sure. I think that Alabama is certainly very high on his list. Now, what a lot of people don't know is Ishmael Sopsher visited LSU on Thursday. So visited LSU on Thursday, just a little unofficial visit, and then went back down on Saturday with his family, spent the entire weekend down there. So, LSU still very much in the picture. It's going to be a very tight battle. And obviously, Coach Ed Orgeron came out and talked about how they needed bigger, quicker defensive linemen. And obviously, I think that was a direct, shout out to Ishmael Sopsher. They really need him, want him, trying to get him. But, you know what? So does Alabama. Alabama needs him because they're going to be losing some defensive linemen, probably some defensive linemen that going into the season, they didn't know that they would probably lose. Quentin Williams, probably went into this season, nobody thought he was going to be coming out early. And now he's a, potential top 10 NFL draft pick, maybe even top 5. So Alabama's certainly going to be needing some defensive line help. They've got a really good class so far, defensive line, 5 defensive line commitments, but Ishmael Sopsher is still a very big target for them. Another big target that not a lot of people are talking about in terms of an Alabama-LSU battle, but George Pickens, 5-star wide receiver from Hoover High School, is committed to Auburn, as we all know. Been a long time commitment to Auburn. He actually made his second visit of the season down to LSU for this game. Obviously, it's a good opportunity to go see, Alabama play again, a school that a lot of people think that he could flip to. But now that he's made a couple trips down to down to Baton Rouge, they might be in it a little bit more than what people think. But obviously, he saw a tremendous offensive performance by Alabama, spreading the ball around. Obviously, a lot of those guys had some big performances, including Jerry Jeudy. I think Jeudy had over 100 yards receiving, around 8 catches. So obviously, he's going to really like that a lot. I'll probably see Pickens back in Tuscaloosa. For the Iron Bowl. I'd be very surprised if he's not down there as a visitor for Alabama. But those are a couple of the big names that were down in LSU that is probably going to have some big impact on those guys. Another guy, John Emery, Rivals 100 running back out of Louisiana, just recently decommitted from Georgia. So he's another name that Alabama. Trying to get back in on, probably will get a visit, but I just don't, right now, I still just think that Trey Sanders probably is going to be that running back in Alabama's class. Another big name that we're going to talk about, and this is kind of going to be our third point. Now, we've talked about kind of the recruit reaction. We've talked about the impact. So going into our third talking point of the evening, we're going to talk about Talia Tagovailoa. Alabama quarterback commitment. Obviously, Tua's younger brother from Thompson High School took his visit down to LSU this past weekend. A lot of people saw Ed Orgeron walking across the field with Leah right before the game. And, obviously, it's kind of interesting. It's kind of weird seeing him walk with Ed Orgeron as a visitor down there while Tua's getting ready for the biggest game of the college football season thus far. But right now, I cannot see him flipping to LSU. I mean, there's some other schools that are still coming after him. Tennessee is one of them, and he may get back down to LSU, but I think Alabama is really going to press for him to go ahead and sign in December, so they don't really have to worry about things anymore. So we'll see if he ends up making some trips, some other trips, but as of right now, I still think Talia is going to stick with the Crimson Tide. That's all we're going to talk about tonight on the Alabama LSU game and reaction and stuff like that. What I will go to now is my conversation with Evan Neal. Now, we talk each week about who's going to end up being the remaining guys in Alabama's recruiting class, especially on the offensive line, because there's 3 5-star linemen that Alabama is still heavily involved with, still heavily recruiting. Evan Neal, Darnell Wright, Clay Webb, talk about those guys all the time. And Evan Neal, I finally got a chance to spend some time with him. IMG played at Hoover High School on Friday night, and I spent a little bit of time with Evan Neal on Thursday night at a little media session, and just trying to get a feel, kind of what he's thinking, what he's going to do, and he's going to make a decision. And it seems like he's going to make a decision here within the next probably month or so. He is going to sign in December. He plans on enrolling early. He's going to take an official visit to Oklahoma this weekend. Then he's going to take that official visit to Alabama for the Iron Bowl weekend. Now, IMG season's over, so it's not like he's going to be coming into town on Saturday morning and only staying there until Sunday. He'll be getting there early Friday, spending the entire weekend down there. So he'll be having a long weekend down in Tuscaloosa. But I kind of got the sense that Alabama was in really good shape there. I know that Miami's kind of been one of those schools that a lot of people talked about, but I think with them kind of falling off this season, I think that's really helped Alabama's chances even more. So as of right now, after spending some time with Evan Neal, I think Alabama's probably in very good position with him. And I think that it will be interesting if Evan Neal goes ahead and commits to Alabama, what may happen with Darnell Wright, the 5-star lineman from Huntington, West Virginia. Does that impact Darnell Wright? Darnell's not going to make a decision until February. And I'm not saying will it make an impact with Alabama. It could make an impact with Darnell because Alabama's then going to have, you look at the offensive line class with Amari Kite, Pierce Quick. You throw in Evan Neal if he decides to commit to Alabama. And then you have Darian Dalcourt and Tanner Bowles. And you're still going after Clay Webb. So, really big offensive line class, but could be, a very, very special offensive line class. All right, let's talk about Trey Sanders, his teammate. Trey is one of those kids who's just kind of gone completely silent about his recruitment. Doesn't really talk to the media. Hasn't really said much. He used to back when he was a sophomore and junior. He used to talk all the time, and I think by the time he got to be a senior, probably I would say probably the spring of his junior season was when he really kind of just shut things down. Now, you can talk to him in person, but he doesn't really like to do many media interviews or make any game predictions or stuff like that. But I finally got a chance to. I hadn't seen him since the Rivals 5-Star Challenge back during the summer, which was in late June in Atlanta. So I hadn't had a chance to see him or talk to him since then. But I always knew that Alabama was still in really good shape with him, but just wasn't sure where his head was at, what his visit schedule was looking like. So I finally got a chance to spend some time with him last week and talk to him. He also confirmed he will be at the Alabama Auburn game. We'll spend that whole weekend there. He really just lit up when we asked him, or when I asked him about Alabama. I mean, you ask these kids, what do you like about Alabama? What do you like about LSU? What do you like about Tennessee? And whoever it may be. And when I said, hey, what do you like about Alabama? What stands out about Alabama to you right now? I mean, his face just really lit up and said, just everything. What's not to like? I mean, I just love everything. There's a reason that I committed to Alabama early in my recruitment. I know what I like about Alabama, and nothing's gonna change that. So I do think that Alabama is still in the driver's seat for him. Now, he has taken an official visit to Texas. He really likes Texas a lot. Running backs coach Stan Drayton seems like he's really made a big impact with him, and it seems like he really likes him a lot. Now, he's already taken that official visit there, so he won't be going out to Texas anymore. He did mention he may go to Florida this weekend. Watch his brother play. I think they're playing I believe they're playing South Carolina, Florida. So yeah, I think that those are probably the top three schools. He mentioned wanting to get down to LSU for an official visit. I don't think that's scheduled yet. There was some talk that he was going to go down for the down to Baton Rouge this past weekend, but didn't make it down there. And he told me that he'd never planned on it. So I don't know where that kind of came from, but he said that he was not going to go down there, but was going to get down there at least before he makes the decision. And a lot like his teammate Evan Neal, wants to make a decision sometime in December. Said it could potentially come late November, early December. Obviously he's only got one more official visit set as of right now for Alabama in late November. So if he decides he wants to make a decision in late November, that could be a good sign for Alabama. But regardless, I think it's a good sign for Alabama one way or the other. Our next point that I wanted to talk about, Nolan Smith. Nolan Smith's been a long time Georgia commitment. We've talked about him a little bit on Bama Insider, and anytime you bring up Nolan Smith on our site, you get 20 comments that says he's all dog, he's going to Georgia, he's been committed to Georgia. All he does is talk about Georgia, and that may be the case. But I also think Alabama's done a really good job recruiting him throughout the entire process. Tasha Poy's got a great relationship with him. Mike Loxley's got a good relationship with him. Mike Loxley, even though he's the offensive coordinator, he's a recruiting area coach for IMG. So he knows these guys extremely well. But Tasha Poy's done such a tremendous job recruiting Nolan Smith. And I talked to Nolan a little bit the other night. Still is coming into Tuscaloosa for his official visit on the Iron Bowl weekend. And he's been talking a lot of positive things about Alabama on Twitter. Does that mean anything? Not in my opinion, not right now. Just let him take that visit, enjoy the process. Then we'll see what happens. Do I think he ends up flipping from Georgia to Alabama? I don't. I think he sticks with Georgia. But like I said, he is going to visit Alabama. And you never know what can happen. We'll see what happens after that visit. And, maybe my mind will change a little bit. But as of right now, I think he ends up sticking with Georgia. All right, so those were three guys that I visited with last week: Evan Neal, Nolan Smith, and Trey Sanders. Feel really good about Alabama's chance with Evan Neal and Trey Sanders, and then we'll see what happens with Nolan Smith. And like I said, all three of those guys will be in Tuscaloosa for the Iron Bowl. Now let's hit on this weekend. Alabama, Mississippi State. Now later on this week, I'm going to talk a little bit more about the big visitors that are coming in town. We'll have a complete breakdown, complete list of guys that are going to be at that game, the officials and the unofficials. But one particular guy that I wanted to hit on that's going to be coming in for an official visit. Actually, I've got two guys that I'm going to talk about real quick. Jordan Battle, the Ohio State commitment, 4-star defensive back out of St. Thomas Aquinas, down in Fort Lauderdale. Alabama just recently picked up his teammate Braylon Ingram as a commitment, and now Jordan Battle coming into Tuscaloosa for an official visit this weekend. Now Jordan, we hadn't really talked about him that much up until the Alabama Louisville game in Orlando, and Battle made a trip up to Orlando for that game, and so you kind of knew that. All right, well, he's coming up to Orlando for that game. There might be a little interest there, and he'll probably return the favor for Alabama and come back to Tuscaloosa. We saw that. We've seen that before. A'Shawn Robinson, who was committed to Texas for such a long time, and then all of a sudden Alabama, plays USC at Jerry World, and A'Shawn Robinson decides to come in for the game. Now we all of us, at least on the Rivals message board and guys that cover the team, we all kind of thought, all right, it's just a visit because it's a local kid coming for a good game. Actually, excuse me, I said Alabama USC. It was actually further down the road. It was Alabama Michigan. So disregard Alabama USC. It was the Alabama Michigan game. God, that was crazy how long ago that was. But yeah, he was at that game. Decided to come back during the season for a game, and then made it for an official visit in January, and decided to flip his commitment from Texas to Alabama on signing day. So Alabama would love for something like that to happen with Jordan Battle. He's been committed to Ohio State for a very long time, and obviously we've seen kind of what's been going on at Ohio State. And so I think that's kind of why he's giving Alabama a little bit more of a chance. And I think Alabama's got a pretty good chance with him. So we'll see how the official visit goes this weekend, and see if he still takes some visits elsewhere, including to Ohio State, before he makes that final decision. Another player that's going to be coming into Tuscaloosa this weekend is DeAndre Glass. DeAndre Glass is a 4-star running back out of Katy High School in Texas. And in my opinion, probably one of those guys that, Alabama would have to miss on Trey Sanders to get him. Alabama probably won't take 3 running backs. They have Keelan Robinson. Now, Keelan, kind of your all-purpose type guy that can do a lot of different things, kind of similar to Josh Jacobs. But they really want Trey Sanders. Trey Sanders at the top of their list. Obviously, there's some other guys that they're still recruiting. John Emery, Jerrion Ely, but also DeAndre Glass. DeAndre's big, thick running back that would be a very nice pickup if Alabama doesn't get Trey Sanders. So he's going to be in town this weekend for an official visit. So we're going to be watching that visit closely. We're going to hopefully talk to him after the trip, see how everything goes. All right. One of the final points we're going to hit on real quick is the Nathan Pickering tweet today. It was kind of interesting because Nathan Pickering was one of those kids that Alabama felt very good about. Back in the spring and early part of the summer, he visited Tuscaloosa with his mom, and everybody thought that he was about to, announce his commitment to Alabama. He announced his commitment, but to Mississippi State. Always tough to get these kids out of Mississippi, and he decided to commit to Mississippi State. Well, he's still remained in contact with Alabama. He's made a couple trips to Tuscaloosa since that commitment, and we're going to see him back in Tuscaloosa this weekend. But even though he's got a great relationship with Alabama, he's still committed to Mississippi State, and he tweeted today that he was going to be at the game on Saturday in Tuscaloosa, and talked about how we as in Mississippi State, I assume, will shock the world. So I assume he's saying that Alabama will be upset by Mississippi State this weekend. So obviously he's going to be there cheering for Mississippi State, hoping that they will be be victorious against the Crimson Tide, but he will be there as a visitor of Alabama, kind of like Talia was this past weekend down at LSU. But we didn't see Talia post anything, tweet anything, say anything. So I didn't see him talk about any of that stuff. So I kind of get where some Alabama fans are on this. If a kid's going to be there cheering for for the other team or wanting the other team to win or shock the world or whatever that may be, might as well not even come or give them an invite or anything like that. I completely understand that, completely get it. Well, in Alabama's point of view, they're seeing it as, okay, you can cheer for them or whatever, think about them. We don't want you here trying to recruit other kids to come, but we want to show you why we want you. We're going to show you the depth chart. We're going to show you who's leaving. We want to show you how dominant we can be against this team that you're cheering for. And that's kind of their mindset towards it. LSU kind of thought they were, they made it a big recruiting weekend down in Baton Rouge, and they were going to shock the world. And it was a 29-0 blowout. 8 straight wins for Alabama. Trust me, Alabama loved seeing all those recruits at the game because they knew what they were doing to that LSU team. Kind of the same situation here this weekend. Obviously, Mississippi State is going to have some kids that are probably going to be there this weekend that are going to sign with Mississippi State. Not just Nathan Pickering, but probably some other kids as well. Alabama kind of wants to show them, what they're going to be able to do. So, I completely get it on both sides, but regardless, Alabama's still going to welcome him and continue to try to recruit him, continue to try to flip him between now and signing day. So those are some 9 points that I wanted to hit on this evening. We talked about recruits down in Baton Rouge, what kind of impact. We talked about Talia visiting, Evan Neal, Trey Sanders, Nolan Smith. Talked about the official visitors coming in this weekend. We hit on Jordan Battle, talked about DeAndre Glass, and then we hit on Nathan Pickering. My final thing of the evening is a just quick little Q&A. I know I've had so many comments coming in. I thank everybody for joining us this evening. I mean, we have over 200 people that are active right now watching it. And, like I said, I am going to replay this. We're going to post it on BamaInsider.com. And once again, if you are not a member, I strongly encourage you to jump on board. Check us out. I mean, it doesn't cost you anything for a 30-day free trial. Check us out. If you don't like us, you don't have to come back. But I think you guys will you'll stick around and enjoy it. What I did this evening. This is kind of a one-time thing, just to kind of show you what I do each and every Monday on BamaInsider.com. Very similar to this, but it's in written format. I write it all so you can save it and read it throughout the entire week, and try to be smarter than your other friends in the recruiting worlds that like to follow recruiting. So I'm going to go back, look through some of these questions, ask you a few, answer a few, and some of them I'm already seeing are questions that I've already answered, even though I didn't see your questions on here. But I've already answered some of these, so I'm going to go on here. DJ Monstar, let's see. You asked, does Christian Williams flip to LSU? Christian Williams out of Daphne High School, been committed to Alabama for a long time. Still very heavily recruited by LSU. And I didn't even see if he had confirmed that he was down in Baton Rouge this past weekend. He was supposed to be there. We'll see. As of right now, I think he sticks with Alabama. But the more he visits LSU, the more that start to think it could happen. Alabama is involved with some other defensive backs. Marcus Banks, Noah Pola Gates. Alabama might get Jeffrey Carter back on campus for a visit. Akeem Dent's supposed to be back in Tuscaloosa. Jordan Battle, obviously, visiting this weekend. So if Alabama ended up losing a defensive back, it might not be – I'm not saying it would be a bad thing. I'm just or not a bad thing. But I think if they lost the defensive back, there's some other guys that they could end up getting that would, kind of soften the blow a little bit. Let's see. I'm scrolling down. Sorry, guys. Do I think Jordan Battle will flip to Bama? Like I said, I think that I think we'll see. We'll know a little bit more after this weekend. Tyler has asked, heard Clay Webb is leaning towards Clemson. Thoughts? I don't think Clay is really leaning towards anywhere right now. I think everybody's just kind of making assumptions. He has visited Clemson a couple times this year, but he's visited Alabama a few times this year. He's visited Georgia. He's going to take his official visits. Brent Key, Alabama offensive line coach, spent a lot of time with Clay Webb a couple weeks ago. He and his mom during that bye week. So I still think Alabama still strongly in the mix there. But Clay's really not tipping his hat any direction. I mean, I think he's waiting all the way up until probably December, mid-December before he makes that final decision. Let's see. Any news on Henry To'oTo'o? Not really. I mean, Joshua, thanks for asking the question. One of the top inside linebackers in the country. I still think that Alabama is the team to beat there. I think he's supposed to come in for the Iron Bowl for an official visit. And I would say that, yeah, I think Alabama's in pretty good shape with him right now. Did I see Kayvon and Nolan's tweets today about Bama? I did. Sometimes you got to take that stuff with a grain of salt. You can't always say, all right, because they're tweeting about Bama and they're saying, oh, we're going to, I can't remember the exact wording, but almost seemed like, oh, we're both going to be playing there. I think sometimes it's just, kids having fun. You got to always remember these kids, these are still 17, 18-year-old kids on social media. Put some of us back on social media when we were 17 and 18-year-olds. No telling what we would say. So you just have to, take that with a grain of salt, and you just have to wait and see what happens in the end. Let's see here. Just to answer a few more questions. Any news on junior college defensive tackles emerging? No, still nothing. DJ, I know you ask every week about the junior college defensive tackles. Nothing yet. And we're in November now, which almost it seems to me like there probably won't be a junior college defensive tackle in this class. I mean, Alabama has 5 defensive line commitments. Still going after some big name guys that we continue to talk about, like Nathan Pickering. Like, even though he's committed to Mississippi State, I'm still trying to flip him. Ishmael Sopsher, Jaquez Sorrells, Ty Robinson out of Arizona. And those are some big names that Alabama is still heavily pursuing. They'd like to get one or two of those guys. So I just can't see a junior college defensive tackle in this class at this time. Let's see. I'm just going to answer a couple more questions. We kind of passed over 30 minutes. We're just going to do kind of a 30-minute session this evening. But any update on Kayvon? Nothing really. He's still kind of taking his time with everything, and as of right now, probably going to wait until December, make that decision. I think he's already said he's going to announce a decision on December the 15th. But I still think Alabama's in it. He obviously watched the game against LSU this past weekend. He didn't. I don't think he took any visits this past week. As of right now, I think he's going down to Florida this weekend, and then probably going to try to fit in a trip to USC after that. But as of right now, still kind of a toss-up. A lot of people think that it's Oregon, maybe Florida State. I can't see him going to Florida State right now. It just seems like they're in some shambles. Siaki Akea, what's our confidence level in him? I just think he's kind of behind a few guys at this time. Like I said, Alabama, very, very good defensive line class. But Siaki Akea is going to come in for a visit, and there's one or two more guys that they can fit in this class, probably on the defensive line. And as of right now, he's behind kind of Alabama's top 4 or 5 guys. So I think they're going to wait on those guys to the side before they take somebody like him. Let's see here. And this is going to be kind of our last question here. What is up with Fatui Tuatele? Haven't heard about him in a while. One of those other defensive linemen that kind of fallen off the board a little bit because Alabama's been able to get some really good defensive line commitments over the course of the summer. Some guys that a lot of people may not have thought that they were going to get. Justin Mbojibe, Byron Young. Antonio Alfano, some really good guys. And then, they scouted Braylon Ingram. Braylon Ingram, just having an absolutely incredible senior season. So Fatui Tuitele is kind of falling off a good bit there on Alabama's recruiting board. But anyway, that's really all that I've got for the evening. Thank you so much for joining. And like I said, I do this every single Monday on BamaInsider.com. Give my 10 recruiting thoughts. I take questions from the subscribers on BamaInsider.com. So please join us every single Monday on Bama Insider, where we'll talk about that. Like I said, it's all going to be in written form. This is just kind of give you guys, people that may not be subscribers, kind of a taste of what we do, all the time over on Bama Insider. So thank you very much for joining this evening, and we'll see you next time.